Hello, everybody. Welcome again to our Wisdom Wednesday podcast live. Today we are with an amazing guest, Jennifer Werkowitz. Thank you so much for joining today. We have Sia Mohi, our COO, and Gavi, our Q&A queen and business development leader from CTI Staffing. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining today. Jennifer,
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
yeah, we're so happy to have you. Just a little bit background of you. Jennifer is the founder of RNJ Advisory Group and Freedom Global Group. She's also helping a lot of people with coaching for CEOs and mentors at Scaling Up and around the world. So, Jennifer, for those who don't know you, let's just get started. And who is Jennifer?
Sure. So, hey everyone, my name is Jennifer Berkowitz, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you. So, my story is I was a technology CEO. I had started two different companies over the years. My latest company, I had started an online data backup and recovery business, mostly for financial institutions out of New York City. Started out of my apartment, like many of us probably out there. I lived on oatmeal and PB&J trying to get the business off the ground, but ultimately turned it into a multi-million dollar debt-free, very profitable business. And I did exit in 2014, had a really awesome exit. I'm very proud of our team and just how it all went. And I realized there's two types of retirement. There's business retirement and financial retirement. Financial retirement's awesome. Business retirement, the worst. So I moved to South Florida with my family, and I was bored out of my mind. And so people just started asking me to help them scale their companies the way I did. And so today I'm a strategy growth coach for mostly mid-market companies, helping to 10x their business. But I've also worked with startups and just companies that excite me. So I really love helping them get the same freedom I have today.
So that's awesome. So I'm assuming now once you have that financial retirement, like you talk about, it gives you a lot of freedom to do the things you actually want to do and work with the people you want to work with. So who do you like to work with?
Yeah, no, it's a really great question. So I would say my ideal clients, like who I really love working with, they are really passionate about their business. Usually there's one of two issues going on with them. Either they're growing too fast and they're ready to implode, or they're just really stuck. And, maybe the strategy that they had and just how they got to where they are, they're stuck and they don't know how to get to that next level. I find that it's usually one of those two things, but most importantly, that the CEO and the leadership team, that they're humble, that they're craving education, craving growth, and they're looking for someone to help guide them. And I tease them that, if you decide to work with me, you really have to put your seatbelt on, because while I'll meet you where you're at, I really love to roll up my sleeves and really help them. And I love to move fast with them, as fast as they obviously want to move, but it's just a lot of fun working with them.
So what are some of the biggest obstacles that these companies are going to face that you help them overcome? And as somebody who's been on both sides, where we've grown too quickly and we're like, oh my God, this is going to blow up. And there's that plateau where you're like, yeah, it's good, but we're leaving so much out there. What are some of those obstacles? Let me just.
Yeah. So there's quite a few obstacles I see when I first start like analyzing a client. Probably the first and foremost, the biggest issue I see is with the people. And it's usually one of a few reasons. Either that no one has a real clear understanding of, well, what is your strategy? Like if I were to go into your office and ask anyone in the company, what do you look like in 6 months or a year or 3 years? And their answer is go ask the CEO, you've got a problem right there. I think secondly, there's just a tremendous lack of accountability of who's doing what and like, why should they get paid? What is it that they're ultimately supposed to be doing? And I find too often that they're usually looking at the wrong activities to drive success. And so for that reason, they're leaving a lot of profit margins on the table. So I usually see a lot of issues with that. Or you might even have teammates that were fantastic to a certain point of your business, but unfortunately they can't help you get to that next level. I'm a big believer, really important, that I'm a big believer that we probably do have a lot of great people and we haven't put enough energy and focus towards them to help make them successful. Because let's face it, as a CEO, or as a leader, a lot of times they just get put there and they're not trained on how to be an amazing leader. And so for that reason, the CEO tends to get frustrated. So sometimes it might be that we have to let some people go or move them into a different role. Or sometimes it's, what I do with clients is I'll always be bringing education every month. I'm seeing them because in order to 10x your business, you got to 10x your team too. So that's usually one of the fundamental problems I see with teams, and there's so much profit margins that are left on the table. It's one of the first things that I do with them is fix all that so that at least they're getting all that profit back,
Right.
so they can then start to scale from there.
All right. So you said something that like triggers for me because like I'm a big believer on focusing on less activities, but the more important ones.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm gonna secretly write mine down because there's only like 2 things I talk about every day. What are some of the activities that the company should be focused on? I would say it's almost irrelevant of the department, but what are the activities that they should be focusing on that's going to give them the best ROI?
Well, I think the most important thing is, well, where are you going? Right? It doesn't matter what the activities are. The question is well, what, kind of going back to my prior question or prior comment, which is like, let's just look at this year, right? If we're sitting here and it's December 31st, 2025, what does your business look like? And then the answer to help answer that question would be, well, what would be those handful of activities that would help guide us there? I think so often that businesses have so many different ideas, but it's actually the execution of it that is what separates a lot of companies that scale and not scale. I mean, it's not rocket science, but again, it kind of goes back to no one's been actually trained on how do you get from point A to point B. Again, one of the first things that I do with teams is that if we say we're going to be doing this in the next 90 days, okay, let me teach you how to lay it all out, how to figure out who's doing what week by week. No one's taught that. And having been on the other side as a CEO and hiring coaches in my past life, it was something I had to figure out myself too. Like, there's just so much that people are not taught. And it is such a massive opportunity to really drive success for your business. So to answer your question, it really depends on where you're going. And does everyone understand what success looks like? You could be working on an initiative. My favorite thing is someone could say, oh yeah, I'm going to build a strategy document or something. Okay, great. Is it in PowerPoint? Is it a Word doc? Like, what is it that we're expecting? And a lot of times, if they're not clear, everyone's building different things and then no one's clear on the actual end goal. So it's important.
So what you're saying is the company being in line from the CEO to the janitor, having the same vision, the same direction, like if everybody's in a boat, everybody's going to be paddling the same direction, right?
Yeah. And you have to get even granular with that. And this is where it gets challenging too for a lot of CEOs. A lot of CEOs are very visionary. They love to think big ideas, but when it gets down to the tactical like details of, well, how are we going to get it done? That's where 90% of businesses fall short. And then you sit there and you wonder after the end of the quarter, why didn't we get what we needed done? It's because we weren't really clear in the beginning and we didn't hold each other accountable. It kind of comes down to, you just got to do a few things right, which is you've got to be clear what the goals are, what does success look like, what are those meeting rhythms need to look like so that every meeting has action items, like how are we driving success, and having a really clear dashboard to know how are we doing. I think every single dashboard I've ever seen out there have never been accurate. They're usually just showing maybe some sales, marketing, finance, but they're not telling you the full story of what's actually happening in your business. So it's really hard to drive success if you're not clear with where you're going.
God, there's so many more questions I want to ask.
I feel like I can.
You need to stop, yeah.
I can feel Elena looking at me. Like we have
I
more
knew
questions.
Jennifer. I told you he was going to be the person that he was going to enjoy this the most because you always have questions about this. But later, sir, Jennifer.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we have some questions related to how do you actually tailor your coaching to different culture styles and different type of leadership styles? So how do you do that? How do you manage that?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So I have zero cookie cutter approach, zero, because I have to meet clients where they're at. I am a strategy growth coach. I do have, so I use Scaling Up Methodology, the performance platform in my old company, and it was a game changer, that methodology. So I usually will leverage that platform to what I teach from, but I have other certifications and I've developed my own tools over the years to help support my clients, but it really starts off with where they're at. Every client is so different. They're in different industry, different pain points. One company might be running out of money while one's running too fast and they don't know what to do with their money. Like it's fascinating what happens, but how I start is always the same. The first thing that I'll do is I'll interview each member of the executive team. And I like to have that one-on-one confidential call. What's working, what's not working, give me the real stuff because it's completely confidential. I will not share this with anyone. I feel very strongly about that. I'll do some assessments, but I really need to get a handle of what's actually happening so that I can bring the right agenda for our first meeting. And that usually the 2-day meeting, usually it starts off with a 2-day offsite where we're literally ripping apart the business, what's working, what's not working, start to rebuild it, because the things that got you here probably aren't getting you to where you're ultimately trying to get to, which is why you've hired me. And then from there, we build a very solid roadmap. And it's been so much fun watching my clients double, triple. I've had one 15x. I mean, but it's not seen to see like 5 times revenue, I mean, and profit margins, but it's about meeting them where they're at, giving them the right tools. And every month I'm bringing education. It's education of what do they need? Maybe they're terrible delegators. Maybe they don't know how to give good feedback. Maybe they're playing too much victim. I got to bring that education to teach them how to take ownership of their roles. How do you be a good leader, right? So all those things have to come in play as part of my journey with them.
Would you say you've worked with enough companies, and I know you don't do anything cookie cutter, but I've realized that a lot of companies all kind of face the same issues.
Yeah.
Is there one or two issues that you consistently see?
Yep. Always. And it always starts with the people. And this kind of goes back to with the dashboards. It's really hard to manage a business if you're not measuring it correctly. And the best way you can find out if you have the right dashboard, of metrics, is to ask this one question. If you were to be on a desert island and I could only give you a copy of your dashboard, could you give me 2 answers to my question, which is 1, can you easily quantifiably tell me the health of your entire business, not just sales and marketing, but operationally everything? And can you easily be able to forecast near term what's happening in your business in the future? If you can't do that, you've already lost opportunities. And the biggest problem is wasted people effort, because if people don't know what they're working towards, like what is the goal? Where are we going? And what activities should I be working towards? So I'll give you a great example, just a really quick one. I was talking with someone the other day. They were asking me a question about their business, and they had someone who was running internal operations for the company. And she said, I'm trying to figure out, how do we make our business better? And I said, well, what is this person's activities? What are they doing to better your business? They do outsourced professional services. I'm going to leave it kind of generic right now. And so I said, well, what is this person's activities? What are they tasked to do? And she said, oh, they're supposed to write up SOPs all the time, implement technology. I said, that's not really what the goal of that role is. Why should she get paid? And after a long thought, she's like, well, wait a second. It really is to shorten the window of how long it's taking us to deliver our service to the client. I said, now you're on to something. That is what you should be measuring this person on, is that quantifiable number. If it's right now, if it's, let's say 5 weeks or whatever it is, and you're trying to shorten it to 3 weeks, then she's going to start thinking differently about what activities she needs to be doing to drive her success of her role. When teammates across the entire company are not clear what are they working towards, they're just showing up every day, doing emails, fighting fires, and they're not ultimately understanding how they can support the bigger picture. And we hear all the time with millennials and this and that, and they don't care. You know what? We're all humans at the end of the day, and we all do genuinely care about what we're doing every day. I think too often we're failing to understand how to support them and teach them where we're going and why should it matter. And I also like to gamify businesses, which is like turning it into a game, having results, rewards. Then everyone gets excited about what they're working towards every day to an ultimate goal.
All right. So you said something, and I'm going to force you to elaborate on this one.
Okay.
It's something that I find incredibly challenging as the midway point, I would say, of the professional environment. I feel like I am at the age of, I am in between the Gen Zs and the boomers. And I've had to deal with I'm dealing with everything every day when it comes to,
I'm 1973. I get it.
And I'm just thinking, it's like some of the things I deal with is, like I had a gentleman that worked for us. He was mid to upper 60s. And let me tell you, IT challenges across the board. And then we bring on 20-year-olds where it's just an interesting conversation. I'm not even sure what they're thinking half the time. So when you said people, how do you go about managing the incredibly diverse workforce and their backgrounds and their thoughts?
It's such a big question out there. And I think we have to look at what is it that they need, right? Because everyone is different, right? What you may need, what I may need is different. But if our ultimate goal is the same, that what we're trying to drive towards, how do we get there? And what do you care about? I don't get so caught up on, I think structure is very important in a business. At the same time, I think it's really important for us to understand, well, what is our culture? And do those people fit into our culture? And if we are willing to, be completely open-minded, then we have to be open-minded with our approach, as long as people get their stuff done. But again, if they don't know what they're working towards and they don't have metrics for success, and there's no game where they're being rewarded for hitting those goals, then it is challenging, whether you're 100 years old or 10 years old.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you should be not just saying what the goal is, but going deeper than that. Of like, what are the specific, why is that the goal? And then what is your responsibility towards that goal? So changing it from getting a little more, I don't want to say into the weeds, but a little more specific on what the activities should be and how to achieve them.
Well, we don't want to get into a situation where we're just telling them everything what to do. And this is where it also causes problems in businesses, because if we have the monkeys on our back as leaders and we're the ones where we have to tell everyone everything, then we've got a problem too, right? Mm-hmm. We have to teach them to learn and grow on their own. So if we're sharing, here's how this is our goal, help me to understand what you think we're going to need to do. What do you think you can do to help us achieve it? I think too often, again, this is part of leadership training. And I think part of it is a generational thing. We're so taught to wear these hero capes on our back, like we're supposed to have all the answers. And what's so fascinating is that we're surrounded by amazing people. We're just not teaching them how to think on their own. And this is what also causes why 99.9% of the world is stuck at this 10-person company or less, because they don't know how to realize that this is not a spoken wheel leadership format. This is hey, what do you think? Because our job as leaders is to focus our energy on them and to help grow them so that they can be ultimately pulling us. Because if we have to pull everyone, game over. We're not going to get anywhere. That's what the whole goal of business is that you've got to figure out as a leader, how do you get your team around you to ultimately pull you? And part of that takes time. It takes learning to teach them how to do it. And it's not rocket science. But again, when you don't know what you don't know, this is why so many companies are stuck. And this is also why I recently launched the Freedom Goal Group last year, because R&J Advisory Group it's named after my two boys, Ryan and Jake. It's my private coaching practice. And I love what I do. And I love seeing so many of my clients reach their freedom goal. The problem is that it's not scalable. I can't be out there helping more people. So I created online academies for that purpose, so that more people can get access to this type of content, because it's so hard out there to try to figure it out on your own, and you shouldn't have to. And I wish I had these academies when I had my company. Yeah. Oh my God, I have whip marks on my back from all the mistakes I made. And I thought I was going to become Sinead O'Connor, which I'm probably aging myself by that. Most people don't know who that person is, but ripping out my hair of trying to figure it out for years. And right. I'm giving everything on a silver platter now in these academies because it works. And I've seen it work a bazillion times with my clients. And it's just so many companies they don't know better, and they feel like they have to know it all. And they don't. They just need that support.
They're so busy working in the business, they forget to work on the business. And it's funny that I know Aleha has got another question coming up, but it's what you said directly reflects like what we do here. I don't look to hire anybody here and then tell them what to do. Because I feel like they train a monkey and have them do that, right? You're talking about monkeys on your back, and you just train a monkey and say, hey, go do this exactly like this. Whenever we bring salespeople on, recruiters on, whenever we bring admin, anytime we bring somebody in-house, we tell them this is our problem. How would you fix it?
Yeah.
And because I don't want to pollute your thoughts with what we're doing. I want your ideas on what you think we should do, because I'll be like, oh man, we didn't think about that. But if I told you we're doing it this way, you're already going to go into that mindset. So I like that, and it makes me feel good, because I'm like, all right, maybe I'm not totally screwing things up around here. So I'm
you want some ninja tips on the hiring part of like when you first onboard it that I've seen that works really well. At least we did it ourselves and it worked. For one, please don't hire people to start on a Monday morning. It drives me crazy. Don't do it.
Okay.
Because Monday morning, everyone's busy. Everyone just came back from the weekend. Why are we doing Monday morning? That makes no sense. Do like a Wednesday at 11:30. And just hear me out for a moment. A person, because you all are in staffing, so like you guys are experts at this, and I know because you guys have an exceptional reputation. Like, the thing is about hiring is that everyone's so busy. So if you start and when people join a company, psychologically, their first day is like crazy, right? It's like, did I make the right decision? Is this right? So why not start the middle of the week? What we used to do is start them on a Wednesday at 11:30. What we would do is have them fill out the forms. I'm aging myself again because I sold the company many years ago. But anyway, where we would have them fill out their forms. Then we would have lunch for them. And then the rest of the day, they started their 2-week training. But this way, they felt like, wow, their first day went so fast because it was a half day. And by the way, we would pay them for the full week, because why not? If you're going to be a superstar with us, let's show you up front that we love you, right? And so we would do that. And then they had a great first of the week. And by the way, one of the things I tell my clients to do is as soon as someone's hired, be really clear within the first few weeks. What do they need to achieve within the first few weeks? Because if we're not clear, then again, we're wasting money. We might as well just burn some money on the sidelines. So instead, regardless of the role, what is it that you need to be able to achieve within your first few weeks? Then put a calendar item in Outlook or whatever app you use, so it pops up. Oh, this person needs to do ABC. Did they achieve it? If they did, fantastic. And if not, maybe there's an opportunity for us to figure out if this makes sense. But I think that we wait too long, and we know in America, if you wait months, then you have to let them go. Then you've got to deal with unemployment insurance rates going up. It just doesn't make sense. And we're wasting our time. It's expensive, right, to replace. Why not set them up for success in the beginning? And oh, by the way, for the 2 weeks after they accept and before they start, why aren't we paying attention to them? Why aren't we sending them books, getting them involved, getting them excited? We can't wait for you to start on your first day, because we don't want them to still keep looking. We want them to be like, I cannot wait to start at this company.
Right. I love it.
Well, yeah, that is so powerful. And that leads to Gabby, you have a question, and then go ahead.
Thank you.
We're having a party over here. It's all good.
You guys are allowed to
So
pursue
whenever you want.
Okay, I have here a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, is there a coaching moment that personally changed you, and how did it shape your approach?
Ooh, I love this question. Was there a coaching moment that changed me? I feel like there's coaching moments all the time. There was this one, and this one that still comes back to me a lot that just makes me laugh. Two co-founders in a role, in two different roles. And it became really clear to me that they fantastic founders, but I felt like they were in the wrong roles. It was so obvious to me they were in the wrong roles. They didn't see it, but I did. And so I just said, do yourselves a favor, just switch roles for 3 months, just for fun. They had their company for 11 years, but just for fun, go ahead and switch roles. And they did. And we cleaned up a lot of things in the business, and they changed roles, and they skyrocketed from there, because they were great people in the wrong seats. So what it ultimately, and it was years ago, and what it really ultimately helped me to realize is that, you got to challenge everything. Even if people are in the right seats, you got to challenge it. One of my biggest lessons learned that I always had in my own company was that I kept people in seats too long. Looking back, I was a little naive. And so I'm so passionate today about really supporting those people in their individual roles, and giving them everything they can to be successful. And then ultimately, obviously, if they can't, we got to let them go. But really trying that. And so it's always a coaching moment with me around people.
So I got some pretty interesting advice. I think it was late 20s, early 30s. And I was getting frustrated with my team because they just weren't doing things. I feel like they're just, being sales guys. And at the time I was getting frustrated, and my boss pulled me aside and he goes, hey, listen, he was my first mentor too. And he pulls me aside. He goes, listen, why are you getting frustrated? I'm like, man, they're doing this. They're not listening. I'm like, listen, he's like, you have kids? Or I'm like, yeah. He goes, do you get mad at your kids? He goes, yeah. I'm like, do you feel like when they do things, are they doing it intentionally? I'm like, no, they're just kids. He goes, they're just kids.
Exactly. It's the same thing.
It just hit me like a bus. And I was like, they're just kids. He goes, yeah. He goes, listen, I know we pay them, but they're just kids. You just have to accept the fact that they're not perfect. They're not you. He goes, the number one thing you have to learn is nobody's you. They're not going to do things the way you do it. They're never going to live up to your expectations because you do things differently than they do. You're going to have to accept them for what they are and just help them be the best version of themselves. Now,
exactly. And there's even a secondary part for that too, to think about is I think too often, and whether it's in our personal lives and our business life, we get frustrated so easily. Like, why don't they listen to me? Why are they constantly coming to me for the same, answers, blah, 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 right? We get so frustrated. And what we fail to realize is that we need to take a step back, take a deep breath and realize, wait a second, what was in our control? Because I think if you start to realize that and if you stop playing victim and you start thinking about what's in your control, oh, wait a second, maybe I really never explained that correctly. Or maybe if I have teammates that are always showing up late, maybe I'm allowing it, right? Or maybe I'm not setting the right structure. I think so often we get so frustrated, but once we understand that majority of life is in our control, that's when things will also change significantly. One other thing I also thought would be interesting to share too is that when you were asking about coaching moments and stuff, is that I think a lot of companies today, I'm noticing, they focus so much on just execution and this and that. I don't hear a lot of people talking about their strategy. And I think that's partially been due to an explosion of new coaching platforms that just focus on the people and the execution. I'm not bashing or anything. I'm just saying that
being so good at
we're not talking enough about strategy. How are you differentiating yourself in business? Like when I had my company, we were 10 times more expensive than all of our competitors, yet we still won the business because we figured out who our real true core customer was. We put in some really strong brand promises to alleviate any stress that they would have, in terms of any reason why they shouldn't pay us, like all of that. And because of that, we kept winning the business. And that's what I teach my clients too, is how do you need to show up differently in business? Because if not, then you're like fighting the crowds. In fact, I have a free training coming up June 18th and 19th. If you go to freedomgoalgroup.com, I'm doing a 2-day free boot camp all about how do you differentiate yourself in a crowded market? And also how do you have a really successful rest of your 2025? So I don't know if your audience is interested, but they're welcome to sign up for my free boot camp.
Yes, of course. If you
Yeah,
can,
'cause I think
and
you
if
have
you
to
can,
make
Jennifer,
something
send me that. So we will do noise on our side to your space.
Thank you.
So please do that. So
My pleasure.
I know I'll be there. I'll be there. So count me in.
he has to be there now.
Yeah.
So now that you're talking a lot about, how, companies are doing things that they don't know what to do and things like that, what will be one mindset shift or daily habit that you believe every CEO or every leader should adapt to be smarter in those decisions?
Yeah. What's one mindset? I think I'll kind of go back again. It's like, you don't have to be the hero. I think when you finally realize, and that's the key, because when you stop trying to be the hero and you start empowering everyone else and allowing them to grow, that's how you ultimately get your freedom. I remember one day years ago with my team, I remember I was walking downtown Manhattan with one of my engineers, and I said, I think I want to take off Fridays, but I'm really scared to. And he's like, what? He's like, why aren't you taking Fridays? Why aren't you taking the rest of the week off? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I need to be there. And he's like, are you kidding me? I remember Jamal so well. And I remember almost like being in tears. I'm like, I just didn't think that I could. He's like, Jen, we got it. We're good. Go, like take the week off, take months off. And it was that moment that I realized, and I'll never forget Jamal for that moment. You're right. Why am I trying to be here every day? And that was the first time I realized, wait a second. I stopped being the hero. I started to empower my team. They were crushing it. In fact, they were growing it even faster without me. And that's when I started to take off from work. And it was started off with Fridays, and then it became more days out of the week until ultimately I didn't have to be in the day-to-day anymore. And that was one of the best parts about when I sold my company. There were a few factors that I think were really important in my journey that made my exit so great. One was that I wasn't in the day-to-day anymore, that I wasn't the spoke in the wheel, Two was that we had real-time dashboards on every single part of our entire company, real-time on the walls. And I remember when the company came in to look at our business, they were like, whoa, like we knew down to the penny of everything. I mean, we knew everything going on, the health of our business. And The third thing is just we were really clear on our market and our strategy, and that really changed the game for us. And so when I went in with my LOI versus what I went afterwards, my exit was much higher than what we came in from the LOI because they were just so blown away with what we had and how we captured the New York City market. Unfortunately, I'm still under NDA forever, sharing more details on it, but I can give that part.
Fair
No,
enough.
that's wonderful. Gabby, I think we have another question from your side.
Yes, I have a good one here. So, for companies that are growing fast, how do you help ensure their internal culture keeps up?
Oh, yeah. That's so important. And I tell companies too, sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. And if you're not willing to do that, I may or may not be the right person for you. It just depends on what's going on in your business. Because if you're running on water and your culture isn't strong, you will implode. So when companies are running fast, becomes even more important in your meeting rhythms on how you're communicating with your team, how you're showing up every day, how are your how are your core values staying alive? Like there's so many facets to it that you've got to be on top of, because culture to me is everything. You can fly fast, but if you don't keep your culture going with that, that's how you implode. So it's got to be a really, what's the word I'm trying to come up with? A really focused strategy on how we're keeping the culture even stronger through that journey.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm really giving the explanation, but
and you're right. And from what I've noticed, it's about bringing on the right people while you're growing. It's people that are going to be like culture advocates.
Totally. And yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and companies like yours to really help support them so that they can grow fast is critical. Your business is, everyone should be leveraging, offshore talent, whatever they need, like just to help keep growing their business faster. Because the talent out there is phenomenal. My EA is from Mexico, rock star, love LV. Love
and
her
let
to
me tell
pieces.
you, it's one of those things that people don't realize, and what makes us successful at what we do. Anybody can just put an ad out on Indeed and find a resume, right? The difference is when we go in to find the right person, we want to interview the hiring manager before we interview the person for the job.
Oh,
we
yeah.
want to know, what is the company like? What does your work look like? What's your attitude? What's the expectation? What are you really looking for? What are the things you didn't write in the job description? So that way, when we're interviewing them, we're like, this might not be the right person. They're missing that, whatever it is, this person doesn't have it. Or we might meet somebody that maybe the resume is not as strong, but we're like, man, it's like the perfect cultural fit. Like this person is exactly the person they're looking for. Maybe they can teach them this little thing that they don't have. So when we communicate back to the hiring manager, like, listen, we've got two candidates. We like the one that you're not going to like more because their resume is not great, but they're great. The other one's resume is impeccable, but they're just not, they're not likable. There's something missing with them. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, all right, send me the one you don't like first. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, and then they're like, yeah, you're right. There was something missing. They're like,
yeah, I love that.
But it's our market. I hate to say it. We're commoditized in a sense because there's just so many competitors. Where are you going to differentiate? And for us, it's culture.
And you got to be really clear with who's your core customer too. One of the things that I really love incorporating now into the hiring process on the corporate side is there is this book called The 6 Types of Working Genius. And I'm a lifelong learner. One of my core values is learn, grow, and improve. I'm obsessed with learning. And it's all about where do you get your energy? It has nothing to do with skill set. It's all about where do you get your energy from? And I think it's so important when you're trying to hire, especially whether it's an EA or another teammate, to understand, again, it's not about skill set, but like, for example, what if you were to know about, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. There's basically 6 types of geniuses that we do every day. 2, you just get so much energy out of them. 2, can drain you. And what I'm always fascinated by is that I've always been a pioneer in every industry. I've been in tech. I have a computer science, management, information systems background, and I love ideas. But interestingly enough, that is my number one frustration, genius. So when I'm in ideation meetings, I'll do it. I'll have a lot of good times, but then I get drained afterwards. So I know that if, let's say I'm building a company where all I need to do is come up with new ideas, I probably want to find someone that loves doing ideas more than me, because it doesn't give me energy. In fact, it'll frustrate me. And this is why before LV came into play, I had written half of a book, done half the academies, half because tenacity is another one. I love doing other stuff. I love cheerleading. People on. I love discerning stuff. Getting into the tactical details, I'll do it, but I need someone who really loves it. I can be really good at it, but it just doesn't give me energy. So I find that sometimes assessments and things like that can also be really powerful to help find the right person.
So Jennifer, you were talking about book, and that was the next question. But what about podcasts? Are you a podcast girl? What are you in your free time listen, to kind of like nurture your leadership mindset and everything?
Yeah.
Besides
yours, exactly. So I love books. And one of the things I love to do with teams, not initially because they're not ready yet, but over time, usually I'll give them a quarterly book to read. And then we do a lot of deep dives and we bring it throughout the whole quarter to just make sure it's a part of their culture afterwards, the knowledge that they learn. So I'm a huge book fan. I love Audible. I have clients in Miami. I'm in Delray Beach, so it's about an hour and a half drive. So I love listening to books when I'm en route. So I'm a book girl. I'm kind of old fashioned, I guess.
You're not that old fashioned. You're listening to it. You're not reading it. So
that's That's true. That is very true. So yeah. So I'm more of a book person, but I'll listen to podcast. Like I don't have anything specific, like a specific podcast or anything like that. I listen to a ton of TED Talks too.
So it's good that you said that because we do a book club every month.
Oh, good. What's your latest one?
And let me tell you, and it's one of those things where it sounds dorky that we do a book club, and some of them are great. Some of them, man, you can tell some like we didn't like that book. And I'm like, oh, excuse me. But like I always try to pick a book that's going to affect you both professionally and personally. And we take recommendations. A lot of our book recommendations come from the podcast. People will say, like, hey, you need to read this book. And we're like, all right, well, guys, guess what book we're going to try this one out. And the one that we're doing next Friday is called The Four Agreements.
Oh, yeah. I know The Four Agreements.
And I literally finished it today at the gym. And as I'm listening to this thing wrap up, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, they're either going to love this or they're going to hate this. There will be nobody in the middle of this book. But
a lot of people liking it.
And I feel like, especially today with the world, as much as it's changing, I'm like, man, this is really going to make an impact. So I'm looking forward to it like a lot. And it's cool that you do a quarterly one, because I feel like it's something that everybody can kind of get around. That's not their job. And you can kind of have a conversation beyond that. And I think it builds like a stronger culture, stronger relationships, and you really get the buy-in. You can kind of tell who's going to be the nucleus of your team by who shows up to these things.
Oh, yeah. You want to know who are the learners. You should definitely put on your list The 6 Types of Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni. He wrote the book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. So
we read that
one. Yeah, we read it
3 months ago.
This is the 6 Types of Working Genius?
No, the 5
dysfunctions of the team.
Read The 6 Types of Working Genius. And if you want offline, I'm happy to help you. Like, because I think you guys should do a team map. Go do the assessment team map, and I'll teach you guys what's going on in your business based on that. It's fascinating. I'm happy to do that for you offline.
Let's do it.
What Maria and Gabriella, what have you been your favorite books?
So for me, I think the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, I really like it. But what was the name of the one you suggested, Sia, with the FBI guy?
The FBI.
Yeah, he was part of the FBI. There was a previous book.
Aleja,
He was to talk about.
do you
Don't Split the
remember?
Difference. Never Split the Difference. That's the one.
Do you,
Never
do you
split.
remember the one of?
Oh yeah. That's isn't that Voss? Chris Voss?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the Chris West. So, Gabby, you were asking me which one?
Yeah, the one, The Richest Man in Babylon. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I never read that
That's a
book.
good
But
one.
I'm obviously that's a famous book. I just finished recently a book that it's so off the wall, but is so good for motivation. It's called The Third Door by Alex. Oh God, I can't think of his last name, but it's called The Third Door. It's about this 19-year-old and how it is the craziest story. And you got to listen to it on Audible because he's the one speaking and he's hysterical. It's about how he was able to get meetings with like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and just trying to understand the philosophy of life. And it was an amazing book. It was like one of those random books that I think it was my nephew that told me to read it. And it's really good. I might even have a team read it at some point. It's like, there's a lot of business nuggets in there.
Aleja, can you write down these last couple books? These are our next 2 books that we're gonna have.
I have like when I tell you like it goes stacks high, like all the way around here.
Mine are sitting right over there.
Yeah. Gabby, we have an amazing question.
Yes, we have here one more. What do you wish more CEOs will stop apologizing for or start owning?
Would start apologizing for or start owning?
Yeah, stop apologizing for. Yeah.
I wish they were more transparent. Definitely. You know what? We all make mistakes. We're human. I think CEOs like they feel guilty to not feel perfect. And I think they're going to be more loved showing that they're not perfect, if that makes sense. It's fascinating. And I feel like I need to shake them sometimes, like it's okay. It's okay. Like just be real. Like you're not going to know everything. And that's what's so fun about having an amazing team around you is you're going to figure it out. And I'm here as your coach to hold your hand to make sure we do figure it out. I just think so often they feel like it goes back to this hero cape that I just need to like rip off them. Like I think the heroes are really the frontline people. Like, let's be real. They're the ones that are really the representative of the company. Like, I think that they just need to, stop doing that and just focus as much as they can on their team because the rewards will be endless. If you look at the top companies on like the Forbes, the Fortune 500 or like the best companies to work, if you look at that list, I guarantee the amount of hours that they spend in training per employee are huge. And it's it's like so off because you think like, oh, wait a second, I'm spending too much time on it. It's not the case. Like I have this one client, they spend an obscene amount of money on training, support, and it comes out bazillionfold on how this culture and how everyone's just so loving this business. And they have like 800 employees and they just do a phenomenal job at culture, but it's about just taking care of your team. And it's okay. You don't have to be the hero.
It's funny. That reminds me of a meme that I saw with the manager between 2 managers. And one manager goes, what happens if we give them all this training and spend all this time investing on them and then they leave? The other manager goes, what happens if we don't and they stay?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked with a startup I really loved for a long time. And she, she was just building out her team, and she was so fearful of not knowing the answers. I'm like, that's exactly okay to say that. It's okay because here's the fun part: you own the company. You can't be fired. That's okay. Just to be real. Like I was 100% owner of my company. I didn't have any partners when I had my tech company. And it's like, I had to learn that, and I remember and once I started having the right people in the right seats, doing the right things right, all I wanted to do is cheerlead them on, give them more opportunities, more responsibilities. What training do you need? Right. I love the fact that they're all massive leaders in various companies now today. Like it warms my heart to see them so successful in their, their next careers after we had, finished. So.
It's funny you say that because my old mentor used to say, it's okay to make mistakes. Yeah. Just own them and fess up to them. He goes, there's only been one thing in life that's been perfect. And there's the 1972 Miami Dolphins. All right. And and that was like always his go-to saying that he used to say, and it always made me laugh because I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. He goes, you're not supposed to be perfect. Nobody expects you to be perfect. When you show fallibility, you show approachability, and you show that you're human, people are more likely to come to you when they have an issue, because otherwise they'll be too scared to come to you. And I was like, oh, okay. So like anybody who's been on a call with me, they've definitely seen me slip and say something that I probably shouldn't have said that part, but it's okay because you're able to make up for it with something else. So
you can see you're a great leader. I can tell that about you. I love that.
You're going to make me blush.
No, but it's so true. It's so true. Like there's a great, I subscribe to Masterclass. I don't really use it as much as I probably should, but there's a section, Charles Howard Schultz from Starbucks. He has a whole section about being transparent. It's phenomenal.
I'm telling you, there's a difference when the top listens to the bottom because the bottom is willing to talk to the top and not scared to talk. They get so much more done. I came from an organization before that there was such a division between the regular everyday person and the ivory tower that they continuously made bad decisions because they didn't know what's going on out there. And the cool thing about us is we're on calls like daily. Hey, where are the issues? We're asking them, hey, where do you need help? What changes do you see in the environment? And to the point where I don't think there's a person at our company that'd be scared to call me unless they haven't done anything that day. Then they know I'm avoiding him like crazy. So,
and it's interesting that you brought up a really good point. Another issue I see with teams is you're not spending enough time getting intel from the outside. So again, I'm going to ask everyone who's listening here, how often are you meeting with clients? Not because you want to get more business, but because you genuinely want to know what's going on. Oh, and I'd forgotten the other reason. One of the reasons why my company had the success it did, not one client represented more than 1% of my business, which was very specific for me. Yeah, we didn't have. I think one was like a 0.9% of a point. But so how often are we going to meet with clients and finding out just how can we be better? I remember one time in my old company, I had a metric of how many lunches, that I was meeting with clients. And it was actually one of those lunches where, and again, we're aging ourselves, but this whole concept of disaster recovery of a service came in. This wasn't, you have to realize when I first started the company, I was charging $55 a gig. People were still on dial up. I mean, it was like so early in the game, but this whole concept of, well, why wouldn't you want to recover in the cloud? And this client was asking us about that and went back to the team, like, could we do this? Like, so you never know what new opportunities can come up. And then once we started to ask other clients, they were all like, oh my gosh, can you do that for us? We don't want to go to SunGard and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, just to have stuff sit. We'd love to just be able to recover in the cloud if we could. So I think too often we're not spending enough time asking our clients, how are we doing? And you got to be honest with them. And I know it may be painful. Maybe you're not doing that great of a job, but guess what? You got to ask it anyway. And asking our front lines, what are you hearing out there? And incorporating it into your into your weekly and daily cadence in your meetings. What are we hearing out there? What's going on?
I love it. We call them QBRs.
We
call them QBRs. Yeah. Every quarter you want to get together with your clients, just testing the temperature in the water. How are things going? Are you happy with them? Because especially in our world, we have like contractors out with them. We want to know if there's an issue before there's a big issue.
Totally.
And then on the other hand is like, do you need anybody else? I mean, like it can lead to more, but at the same time, I don't want to lose what we have. We can introduce you to a whole nother sector of the business that you didn't even know existed.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I can verify and I can put my support behind Jennifer. I think she knows what she's talking about. And I think anybody who needs the lift in their company should probably definitely call her at this point.
Thanks. Well, you should come to my boot camp. It's like I said, it's June 18th and 19th is my next 2-day boot camp. And then I have my next Leadership Freedom Academy. It's a 12-week academy for CEOs and their entire leadership teams to go through. That's starting back up in September. And I have some other online courses if anyone's interested. And then obviously my private coaching.
So every time you do this, please tag us. Will be more than helpful, to retag and make noise for you because it's been awesome. Jennifer, Javi, do we have more questions or should we do the last question for Jennifer?
I have more
questions.
I have a lot.
Let's do one more. Let's do one more, and then I'll do the final one. Otherwise, Sia will keep talking for hours. Okay, so.
Okay. What was your biggest fake it till you make it moment as a founder?
Oh, I have plenty. I have so many. Oh my gosh. My favorite was, I don't even know how the heck I got this opportunity. This is the funniest thing. Early in my career, when I had the company was called Boomi, back up my info. American Express was looking for small business owners to be on their ad, like in their commercials, their radio. Gosh, we're really aging ourselves. Radio commercials. And I don't know how the heck I got it. Hilarious. So I'm sitting there telling business owners how to improve their business. And I'm like a couple of years into my own company. I had like one employee at the time or whatever was going on. And I'm like, yeah, this is what you need to do. I was laughing at myself, but I got a lot of business because people were like, wow, that's really good advice. Thanks. I just figured that was good advice to give. That's not saying that I could do it yet with my team. So that was a funny experience. No, I mean, I've always been pretty straightforward. I mean, when I first started the business, I was handing out flyers in Grand Central Station. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was hiding in office buildings. I was getting kicked out of office buildings because I wasn't supposed to be there after 9/11. And I just did whatever I could to get people to listen to me. I didn't have a sales background because I've always been in tech. But I was so passionate about having people protect their information because it was right after 9/11. I knew they had to keep it off site in an encrypted format. So I just did. I would wear these back of my info shirts every day for years. I just like tap danced all day long trying to get business until eventually it took off. But yeah, just lots of crazy. I don't even know. It's been so long. I started in 2002 and I sold it in 2014. So it's been a while.
Fake it till you make it has got to be one of my favorite things. When I first got here, all we've done is IT staffing since I've been here. And then one day Jason sends me forwards me an email about a company out in West Broward that's supposed to be hiring like 1,000 people. And I'm like, you know what? I'm brand new and I got to make an impact quick. Cause I think like anytime you come in, you're like, I got to do something. So like, all right, I got to validate his decision on bringing me in. I'm like, you know, let me go check it out. So I call him a bunch of times. Nothing happens. I'm like, what? It's next to my house. Just go check it out. I walk in there and I'm like, hey, it looks like you guys are growing like crazy. You need help hiring. And I'd love to help you. We specialize in this. I have no idea what this is. I said, we specialize in this. The guy goes, well, listen, we're going to need like 500 insurance agents. And I'm like, absolutely, we can do that in our sleep. No problem. We've never hired an insurance agent before that. And we didn't even know what an insurance agent was, what license they needed, any of it. I would say within 48 hours, we all had to become experts in the field. We ended up hiring 125 agents in the course of like 60 days.
Wow.
It was down in my books as like, okay, well, that was a pretty good one. And it's just one of those things where I tell everybody, just say yes. And
just say yes, just make it happen.
Exactly. Because the cool part about being at a smaller company, it's not steering the Titanic. You're able to take a chance. You're able to take a risk without having to, cut 1,000 pieces of red tape. You just go for it. And that's one of the things, that's what I empower everybody here to do. Like Alea is like my favorite example. I remember the day we hired her, I said to her, I don't know anything about marketing. I don't know anything about social. I don't know anything. Whatever you want to try, let's try. And she kind of looked at me like, is this guy serious? I'm like, yes. Like, I don't even know what KPIs to give you, but here's what I'd like to see. Could we get a client or two from the internet? Because that would be awesome. And so she's been here well over a year now, right?
Yes, correct.
Well over a year. And it's just been so much fun. Our reach has grown.
I love it.
It gives people the opportunity to fail that makes them successful. It's been a blast. It's just been a blast. So I love that question, by the way, Gabby. Whoever asked it, that was a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good one. Yeah, you got to just do it. And what I'd also say too is whatever you do, especially if you're a young person listening to this, is don't stereotype too. That's like my biggest thing, especially being a female in IT. That was like always my biggest frustration is like people just assume, oh, wait a second, she's just a hired gun or whatever. And I'm like, no, because I never had my title on my business card. So people, it's just fascinating. And I think even today's society, women are really powerful people. Don't just assume that, you meet a man and a woman together. Don't assume that it's the man that's the CEO. Just don't, because a lot of times it's the opposite.
Yep. Jennifer, one last question to you. And so is any advice you have, you have said a lot of advices right now, but the last or the most meaningful for you advice for entrepreneurs looking to build their companies and that they are struggling right now?
Call her.
No, yeah. I mean, I would say take care of yourself first. This sounds crazy, but without your health, I just posted something the other day about this. Without your health, you have nothing. It is so important that you even if you're struggling in your business right now, you still have to take care of your health. I think too often, and I see it happening a lot, where entrepreneurs, because they're struggling so much, they're forgetting about doctor's appointments, they're forgetting about everything, and they're getting themselves really sick. And you're no good to anyone, your team, your family, if you don't take care of yourself. So if you're struggling, I first need you to take a deep breath. And I need you to realize, what are you doing for yourself right now? I know it's hard. Like one of the things that I'll do, so I do weekly calls with my clients, my CEOs. And a lot of times I'll say, you know what, unless you need to show me something on the screen or I need to show you something on the screen, let's close our laptops, pick up the phone, and let's go take a walk. Like if you're in California, wherever you are, I'm in Florida, let's put some sneakers on and I want you to walk for half an hour, because I think so often that, I can give them 1,000 pieces of advice on how to get out of their struggle. There's some action steps that they can take. There's also, I think anything you do, you have to start with baby steps, first of all. Like just start off with what's going to make it a good week for you. But I cannot stress it enough about the importance of health. And I say this because of my own personal journey, because when I was CEO of my company, I have something called Lyme disease, and I'll have it for the rest of my life. And there was a point in time in my life where I was blind and bedridden. And you really have to take care of yourself. I've learned now what I need to do to keep my health amazing. But I know so many CEOs that unfortunately are no longer here today because they didn't take care of themselves. So first and foremost, I say to all of you, please, if you had enough time to listen to this podcast, which you should be listening to every one of their podcasts, but if you had enough time to listen to it, you had enough time to take a walk, to go get some more water, to go make that phone call for your doctor appointment. Because when you're in really good health, your brain's going to work better, you're going to feel better, and you're going to be able to be more focused to get to what you need done. So that's another thing that I'm very critical about with my clients. I want to make sure that they're taking good care of themselves along with them. It's great if they crush the goals and hit their margin, hit their freedom goal, but if they're not healthy along the way. In fact, one of my clients, this is another quick little tidbit, they actually, as part of their dashboard, every quarter, the executives, they have a personal KPI that they're also trying to hit every quarter. And every week they check in on how they're doing with their personal KPI, whether it's about weight loss, fitness activities, so that they're helping support one another along with them crushing their top goals.
Love it. Yeah. If on my side, it's eat right, exercise, clean your workspace.
Yes.
Huge one for me. When I cannot work. Maybe
100%.
Maybe it's OCD, maybe it's my obesity. I'm not sure what it is, but I need a clean space and I need to go to the gym. I do those two things. I feel like I'm 10 times more effective than I am without it. So
there's something psychological about that. So yeah, clean your space, clean your brain, and just take good care of yourself. That would be my most important thing. And if I can give some guidance at all, I'm always a phone call away, calendly.com/Jennifer Berkowitz. But, I don't work full time. I play a lot of tennis. I can't say I'm very good at it, but I do play. and I do just work with a handful of companies at any given time. I'm just not interested in working full time. But, I just tell everyone, if I can help, I'm here. But just make sure you're taking good care of yourself, because life is short. Life is beautiful. Let's make sure we're having a great time being here.
Awesome. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you guys for your questions.
Thank you. And thanks, Jason, for connecting all of us.
Yeah, if you want to connect with Jennifer, please follow her on LinkedIn and go to her, website and everything. I'll make sure to share that with you on our social media channels. And don't forget to tag us when you're doing your content for your bootcamp and everything. We'll be more than happy, to repost that. Thank you, Sia, as usual, for your knowledge and also your comments. And Gabby, thank you so much. Jennifer, this was wonderful. Wishing you the best of the rest of the afternoon. And I'll see you next Wednesday.
Too.
We have another webinar coming soon with Henry Woodman. So it's very awesome. He was, from Lost Cities in Honduras, now to tech entrepreneur, and now that's amazing. So please stay tuned for more webinars coming soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. It was fun.
Guys, don't be too proud to ask for help. Reach out when you need it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. This was wonderful.
Bye.